to the Thursday Night Live Cooking. I'm Scott, the Uncensored Chef, and tonight, if you haven't seen it on the social media, we are going to be doing some flank steak with chimichurri and some grilled asparagus. Now, this is one very simple meal to throw together that has a lot of flavor in it. It's a personal favorite around the household here, and I thought it would be great to share because it's a great thing to do out on the grill. Nice for this kind of weather right now. So we're just going to jump right into this, and we're going to start off tonight by making the chimichurri. Now, a lot of people might not be familiar with what chimichurri is, and chimichurri is basically, it's kind of a South American version of a salsa verde. So it's a green, herbaceous sauce. We're not cooking anything. All we're doing is we're combining some really flavorful ingredients with a little bit of oil, a little bit of vinegar, salt and pepper. We're just gonna let it rest. Believe me when I tell you this, once you start making this is gonna quickly become a favorite in your house as well, because it's very simple to make. You can store it in your fridge for a couple of days and it does stay really great. And there's so much flavor in here, it's unbelievable. So we're gonna get right into this. Really, all this is, outside of salt and pepper, you've got 6 ingredients. Fresh flat leaf parsley, fresh oregano, fresh garlic, dried chilies, red wine vinegar, olive oil, and then of course salt and pepper to taste. So we're gonna start this one off by kind of building our stuff into our bowl before we get mixing here. So first thing I have is I have 2 teaspoons of dried chilies. Now these guys, of course you can get them, they're nice and chopped up. We're just gonna chuck those guys right in there. Now, next up, we're gonna get the garlic going. So I have 4 nice heads of garlic that we are simply going to take our knife, press down the back of our hand, the heel of our hand on the back of the knife, smash that garlic really nice and flat to let all that juice out, and then just take your knife and do a very simple just chop on it. Now, you can keep this a little bit more rough, or you can go really, really fine on it. That's completely up to you. Personally, I kind of like to go somewhere in the middle. I do like getting big chunks of the garlic in there with right on top of everything. It does add a really great punch of flavor. So it's something I do enjoy. So I'll run my knife once that way, and then we'll take it and we'll just kind of rough chop it a couple times the other direction. So once you get that garlic all nice and chopped up, get it off the knife, and we're just going to pick it up off our board and go right into the bowl. So, after we've got the garlic done, now we're just going to get into the herbs. So, I'm going to start with the oregano. Now, you go about 2 to 1 parsley to oregano. So what I've got here are 2.5 nice long stems of oregano, and I've got about half a bunch of parsley. So what we're just going to do now is we are just going to simply pull those leaves off, and it doesn't matter if you get a little bit of the stem that's attached to the leaf, especially the smaller ones, because those little mini stems, they're just going to disappear when we start really chopping this really nice and fine. So again, you're just going to use your fingers, and we're going to pull all those really nice leaves off of there. And while you're doing that, you're bruising them up a little bit, which isn't going to be a big deal because we are going to chop these up really nice and fine, but it is going to smell really nice. Your fingers are going to start smelling like oregano, which is never a bad thing. So we're just going to take all this oregano off here. And again, little stems, not a big deal. You just don't want any of those big woody stems because they are not pleasant. Now, some people might ask me why I'm not running this through a food processor. It's because we don't want it that fine. We want this a little bit more rustic, a little bit more of a chunkier sauce, so it really does stand out by itself as a body on top of the meat that we're going to put it on top of. So we'll just get those guys out of the way. And now again, you know what? We're going to do this all at once. So we're going to take that oregano and just going to put it to the side. Now your parsley. So again, I've got about half a bunch of flat leaf parsley, and we are just going to, again, just kind of pull those leaves off the chunkier parts of the stem and put them to the side. Now, If you want to, you can save your parsley stems. You can make a really nice herb oil with them because parsley stems in particular pack an insane amount of flavor in them. They're probably one of the most underused and thrown out products that a lot of chefs really like to use. It's great in soups and stocks. It flavors everything really, really nicely. It gives a lot of really nice herbaceous flavor without being super dominant. It's a favorite of mine, especially when I'm making stocks. I love throwing in a bunch of parsley stems in my beef stock and my chicken stock in particular. So again, you don't have to be super particular. You just want the bulk of the stems out of there, just so we can make this sauce really, really nice. Now again, I keep calling it a sauce. It is a sauce and it isn't. It is. You could also call it a condiment. It is similar to a salsa. It's kind of a pesto. It's kind of a lot of things. All I know is that when I started making this, and I started putting it on pretty much every piece of beef I could get a hold of, I instantly fell in love with this sauce. It was an eye-opening experience to me when I had these flavors together for the first time. So, roughly got all that parsley off there. Now you're just going to take your knife. Before that, I'm just going to kind of bunch all of our herbs together. Now remember, we don't need to be gentle because we are going to rough chop these. Now, curl your fingers under nice and tight, and we're just going to start rough chopping these. Now the initial chop through is just to start working everything. Now, we're going to shift it. Take all those straight lines, we're going to change them over. So now it's running the other way. And now we're going to get in here, and now we're going to start doing a real chop on it. So we're going to take our knife, we're going to keep our one hand down on the front with the other hand onto the handle. And we're just going to start chopping. And we're going to chop. And we're going to chop. And we're going to chop. We're going to chop these pretty fine. You don't need them completely down as far as you can take them. But we are going to want to take them relatively fine. So pull the stuff off of your knife blade, put everything back into a nice pile. Again, give yourself a little bit of surface area, nice and long way to move because we are going to go across and back and forth. And again, fingers on the front of your knife to give yourself stability, hand on your handle, and just start chopping that blade through there. Now, going fast isn't going to do any difference except make yourself go quicker. When you're starting to do this, go slow. Take your time. Be methodical with it. Once you get a little bit better, once you're a little bit more comfortable with your knife, you can start turning up the speed. So, now we can take a look at the herbs here, and you can see they are pretty medium fine chopped. I won't call that a fine dice, and I won't call it a medium, but it's definitely somewhere in between. Now this is going to provide a lot of body and texture for the sauce. So now we're just going to take our knife, we're just going to pick these up a little bit at a time and put it right into the bowl. Just like so. Now it smells unbelievably good and green in here right now. The aroma from breaking all of the water bonds on your parsley and oregano it permeates through everything. It is such a fresh, clean, wonderful flavor and aroma that right now it's one of the best things. Just smelling that, it smells like spring and summer in here. So we'll just tidy up that space just a touch. Now, we're going to finish off our sauce. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to add some olive oil. Now, how much olive oil am I going to add? That's a good question. We're going to start with about 3 tablespoons, and then we may add a little bit more once we add everything in here. Now, the reason I say start with, now we're going to go 1, 2, 3. We're just going to let that sink right in. Now, the reason I say start with is because as we start mixing, we're gonna see we might want it a little bit more wet. We might want to add a little bit more oil to it. So we have the 3 tablespoons in there. Now, we're gonna take a little bit of salt. We're gonna add about a teaspoon and a half of salt, fresh ground pepper, again about a teaspoon and a half, and now for the acid. So now we're going to add some red wine vinegar. We're going to add about 2 tablespoons of red wine vinegar, so about a tablespoon less than the oil. 1, 2. Now, the acidity of the red wine vinegar is really what is going to open everything up in here. So now we're just going to take our spoon, and we're simply just going to start moving everything around in here. Now, as you start getting this all kind of moved around, the one thing you'll notice right off the bat, that's looking a little dry, so we're going to add a little bit more moisture in there. So we're going to add another tablespoon and a half of olive oil, and a little over a teaspoon of the red wine vinegar. And again, we're just going to get in here and we're just going to mix that around. Now, the aroma, once the acid and the vinegar hits all of these flavors, all of the herbs, the garlic, the chilies, it's going to start breaking all those down. It's really going to start molding those flavors all together. So at this point in time, we're just going to let that sit. Now, if you make this well in advance, don't be afraid to throw it in your fridge. The olive oil is going to get a little funky on you because it does harden up a little bit in a weird way. Just bring it out enough ahead of time, let it come back up to right around room temperature before you serve it. If, like in our case, you're going to be using it right away, you don't even need to worry about putting it in your fridge. Just let it sit at room temperature and let those flavors really develop. Now we're going to jump into the next part. So, with tonight's meal, we've decided that we're going to do some really nice grilled asparagus. Now, I know asparagus intimidates a lot of people. A lot of people have had really terrible asparagus because it's been well overcooked. Grilling it is a really simple way to keep a lot of flavor in here, and even if you do end up overcooking it a little bit, the grill, the char, and the salt and pepper on here are going to kind of make up for that little bit of texture loss you get. So when you do buy your asparagus, there is a very distinct portion at the bottom of the asparagus that is quite woody, that is closer to the base. Now, you can take your asparagus out of here and you can kind of just push on it and you can see where it's going to bend. Once you kind of know that, take your knife, make a simple cut right down. Now, if you want, you can save these for soup. They're awesome for that. Again, if you're making vegetable stock, you can throw the asparagus in there if you don't mind having a little bit more of a dominant asparagus flavor, because it will take over, but they are great for soup. So now that we have the tops of our asparagus, we're going to take this other rubber band off. We're going to put these guys in our bowl. Just kind of open them up a little bit. Now, these are nice and thick stalks, so these are going to go great on the grill. Now, what I'm going to dress them with is very, very simple. Only thing I'm really going to do is I'm going to add a little bit of avocado oil. Now, I really enjoy grilling with avocado oil. I find that the heat it accepts is great. It doesn't smoke as quick once it hits the pan, and it does have just a small amount of flavor that just adds just a hint of everything on top of what you're cooking. So now with that amount of asparagus, I'm going to add probably about a tablespoon of salt and the same of fresh cracked pepper all over. Now really, we're just going to let those guys sit after we take our tongs, just move them around on each other, and those can just hang out. Now, the nice thing about doing grilled asparagus is that you don't have to let them marinate for a long period of time. And I actually wouldn't recommend it, especially with salt, because you don't want to draw out all that moisture and you can actually end up ruining your lovely asparagus with it, unfortunately. So, our asparagus is grilled, our grilled asparagus is marinating, our chimichurri is ready. Now it's time for the main event. What we have here is an absolutely beautiful piece of Canadian flank steak. Beautiful piece of beef. If you are unfamiliar with the flank, please do a little bit of research, take a look. If you have a butcher that you can go to, please talk to them. Flank comes from kind of the back part of the belly, closer to the bottom of the leg, right up by kind of where it connects to the hip. Typically, a lot of people look at flank steak and they're turned off by it because it's very tough. Unfortunately, that is a human error, because if you treat this piece of meat properly, this can be one of the most tender, unbelievably amazing pieces of beef off the entire animal. Personally, it's one of my absolute favorites. I will take this over most cuts of higher end steak. So, now if we take a really good look at this piece of beef, the one thing that you're going to notice on here is a very discernible grain in the meat. Now you can very easily see that the lines in the meat are running very horizontal across here. Now the biggest mistake that most people make is after cooking is that they cut it wrong, and so obviously we're going to go over that. Now, this piece of meat, again for me, is super flavorful. You don't need a lot to it, so once again, we're going to grab our little ball of avocado oil. We are just going to give a really nice lather on top. Now I'm going to put a little extra on top, because once I salt and pepper the top, I'm going to flip this over, slap it around on the plate a little bit, and then slap the bottom on it as well, so we don't have to do a double season on this. So I'm going to use what looks like a lot of salt and pepper. I'm going to use a solid 2 tablespoons of salt on top of this. Now you might look at that and go, wow, that is a lot of salt. Now remember, partly we're going to flip this over and we're going to marinate the other side. Second, once this hits the grill, some of that salt is going to fall off and it isn't going to stick on there as much as you think it might. So we're going to add a good amount of pepper to this as well. So we are probably going to add about 3 tablespoons of fresh cracked pepper. And again, we are going to flip this over. We're going to marinate the other side. So it does look like a lot right now, but that will change. So now we're just going to take this guy. Move it around at the bottom of that plate. Drop some of that salt and pepper off. And then just flip it right back. Now that's going to pick up just enough salt and pepper on the underside to add a good amount of flavor. So, we're ready to start cooking. Lucky for us, the weather turned out to be really nice today, so we're actually going to head outside to the grill. So I'm going to grab my items here, I'm going to stack them on up, we're going to head on out. So hopefully, outside it doesn't end up being too loud, and we can get some grilling done. So here we go. Let me get to the door for my lovely assistant, as we try to walk downstairs backwards without having an incident. So, now I've had my grill warming up for a little while. The wonderful thing about this again is because this cooks really, really quickly. So we're going to turn everything up to high. So we're going to make sure that this is nice and clean. Oh, it sounds like some people decided to throw a little music on for us. I wonder if you guys can hear that or not. So, because of how light we're actually going to be cooking our steak, we're actually going to be putting the asparagus on first. So these guys are going to go right onto the grill. And we're just going to get these guys going. Put that right on there. And get that happening. So really now, we're just going to close that up. So we're just going to let the convection around the heat, we're just going to let the hood kind of pull the heat down and give it some top heat. Now, we're going to let those go for probably about 3 or 4 minutes, and then we're going to get going again onto the meat. So really, in the meantime, you can just really enjoy the outside and just kind of keep an eye on this. The big thing that a lot of people do is if you're cooking with the lid down, don't open it. Try to refrain from opening that lid up, because the more you open that lid, the more heat you're going to lose. So we're going to have to keep it tight on that. So really, now we're just going to cook. Now we're just going to let this go. So, there's that going real nice. Beautiful asparagus tonight. All right. right, so really right now we're just kind of waiting for this to cook, and there's unfortunately not much else that we can go through except that, you know, we're getting serenaded from the bus stop tonight. So that's what we have going on. So welcome to the north side, I guess. That's what it is. All right, so now that our asparagus has been going for about a minute and a half before we get our beef going, we're gonna get our beef on right away. Now, around here, we go pretty rare on the steak cut. We'll usually go a blue rare to maybe a rare at the most. But really, again, how you cook your steak is really up to you. So right now, we're gonna open this guy up. You can hear that asparagus is cooking really nicely. So we're gonna grab this beautiful piece of flank steak. We're just gonna get that on right in the back here. Sizzle happening. That oil is just starting to sear on the top. We're getting everything happening real nice. And we are just going to let that sizzle. So, now that we've got that on, really we are only going to flip that once. We're going to leave it alone. We're going to leave it alone for the most part, and then we're just going to flip it one time once we are pretty happy with how we think it's looking on the other side. So at this point, we're just going to move our asparagus around a little bit and get them onto a little bit of a different part of the heat. And just let them cook at this point. So really, now we close that up, and now we just kind of wait. This is the most difficult part, once again, is always having to wait. Having to wait is a cook's nightmare, because the longer you wait, the longer things have to go wrong. Luckily, we aren't cooking this for a very long time, so it won't have a ton of time to go wrong on us, but these things can overcook very fast. You can get a flank steak that can go from a really nice rare to a really unfortunate medium well, at least in my opinion anyway, very, very quickly if you're not paying attention. Because of how thin the meat is, it does cook surprisingly fast and will up-temp on you faster than you realize. So that's why we're just kind of, we're sticking around, we're letting it cook, but we're keeping a very close ear on it instead of an eye. So now we're getting some really nice smoke coming out of the back of the barbecue, so we're gonna open this guy up, see what's happening. All right. So we've got some really great noise going on in here. So I'm just gonna take a quick peek. All right, so this is turn number 1, and it's not a full turn. It's just a quarter turn. Now, every time you've ever gone to a restaurant and ordered a piece of steak or a really nice piece of chicken, and seeing really nice grill marks, that's how it's done. It's just a simple quarter turn before you flip. Everything that was taught to me coming up in the restaurants taught me one thing about cooking steak, is that you do not flip it more than once, because you're drawing the moisture back up and down through the meat as you move it. And as that moisture moves, you're actually toughening your meat. So you really want to leave it alone as much as possible. So again, we saw a little bit of flare up on our asparagus, so we're just going to give these guys a quick little flip. And that's really the key to grilling your vegetables, is keeping them constantly on the move and finding a really nice hot spot for them to kind of hang out, especially the big guys. You want them to just kind of do their thing. So really, moving them around, knowing your grill is really important. Now I can already see that I'm getting the color that I'm looking for right here on these asparagus. So that right there, that is exactly what you're going for. That is perfectly grilled asparagus. So you can tell that that place is really nice and hot right there. So we're going to switch some of these guys around and let some other asparagus enjoy that heat. So once again, we're just going to close this up. We're probably going to give it about 2 minutes on that side and just kind of let it do its thing. Then we're going to flip it, and we're going to go another 2 minutes, and then another 2 minutes. So really, we got about 6 minutes of cooking time left. Your initial, when you put your meat down at the very beginning, you're going for about a 4-minute sear. Then it's a 2 minute, 2 minute, 2 minute. So realistically, your beef takes about 10 minutes to cook total if you're really putting a timestamp on it. So now we're going to open this guy up again. And now it's time for the one and only time that we're going to flip this. So we're going to get underneath here. We're going to give that a flip. Now that's some good looking beef right there. So you've got some really nice markings on there, you've got some nice caramelization. That's going to get nice and cooked. So we're going to give that about another total of 4 minutes cooking time before we pull this off, and we're going to make a really nice dish out of all of this. So we're just going to make sure that our asparagus is cooking nicely and not getting overcooked in any place. Now the one thing with asparagus you do have to really be careful of is the flower ends. So asparagus is technically a flower, is what you're eating. And the tips of them are very, very prone to burning. They're very delicate. So once you kind of find a good place in your grill that you're not seeing a lot of burning on them, but your stalks are getting well cooked, that's a great place to leave your asparagus. So we're going to close this now. We're going to give that probably about another 90 seconds or so. Then we're going to quarter turn that meat one more time, and then we're going to give it about another 90 seconds to 2 minutes, and then we're going to pull it off. Now, the key after all of this is going to be letting your meat rest. Now, a lot of people have said this, a lot of people don't explain it. Let it sit. Put it on a plate. Let it sit in its own juices. Let that meat relax. Let some of that water spill out. When you start cutting it after it's been rested, you're going to get a lot nicer product, and you're not going to lose a lot of that juice. Yes, it is still going to leak, but it won't be nearly as much as it usually is. So we're going to jump back in here again. All right, so now we're going to turn that one last time. So we're not cooking it too much on that side. Now we're just going to put it really back into the hottest part of the grill. We're going to close this back up. We've got about another 2 minutes before we can pull that off, and we can head back inside and we can start putting a plate together. Now, chimichurri comes from South America. It is Argentinian originally, I believe, in origins. It is widely used across South America. It is put on almost any form of beef that you can find. It's one of those things that you find on pretty much every table when you go in, which is, you know, it's one of those quintessential condiments when it comes to almost that entire area. So we are just about done here. So once again, we are just going to kind of let go of that. Do that one last little spin to the back far corner there. Now that asparagus is looking phenomenal. Just really nice. The stalks are coming through, cooking, finishing really nicely. So we're ready to bring this stuff off. So I'm just going to turn off my grill. My asparagus is going to go right back in that bowl. I'm going to take that big, beautiful piece of beef right back on that plate. And we're just going to let that relax for a little bit on that plate. So now we're going to gather up our goodies, and we're going to head back on inside. Some really great asparagus, beautiful piece of steak, ready to be plated. So the nice thing about this is that you really don't need a ton to make a great meal. So we can just go with a smaller plate. Five of those beautiful pieces of asparagus. Grab this beautiful piece of flank steak. Now, again, you can see the grain on this meat is going this way, so we're going to cut the opposite way. We're going to cut it at a slight of bias, because that's how you make it fancy. As we make some nice cuts on there, you can see the beautiful color. that unbelievably perfectly cooked meat. And really, we can just take 4 nice pieces of that right over top, and grab that amazing chimichurri sauce that we made earlier. We can just take some of that. We just get that right in there. Just like that. And the heat from that beef is going to pull all those beautiful flavors out of that chimichurri sauce and just set that whole plate in motion. So that's it. That's a really simple meal for almost any day of the week. Chimichurri is a great flavor to have around. It's something to play with. It's awesome on chicken. It's amazing on pork. It's obviously great for beef. Grilled asparagus is one of those things that you can pair with almost anything that you'll ever cook, especially that comes off the grill. It's simple to do. People go wow for it. Everything here is very simple to execute. I hope you've enjoyed what you've seen, and I hope you have seen a meal that is, again, something to inspire you to try out in your own life. My name is Scott, and I am the Uncensored Chef. This has been flank steak with chimichurri and grilled asparagus. If you're not following us here on Twitch, and if you're not following our YouTube account, please do so. Helps us out a lot. And we hope to see you here back next Thursday. So thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next time.